everyone, my name is Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. If you get to the end and liked it, then subscribe, bell notification, give the video a thumbs up. I'm sorry this is going up on Thursday instead of Tuesday. It's been a chaotic-y couple of days and my eye had been puffy. It's not nearly as bad as it had been like, I don't know, 6 months ago, but like it didn't look like I had pink eye or anything this time, but it was teary and watery, so just not down for doing anything. And yeah, so now that I've had a time, it's after work, it's like 7 o'clock before I make dinner and after I walk to the dogs, we're doing a wrap up of the month. Honestly, it's only been like, we're not even halfway technically into August, and I already like looked back, I was like, oh my god, these books I read like only last month, like it feels so much longer ago, like bonkers. So we're going to do a rundown. Some of them, I just don't think I really have anything to say about them. They're pretty like simple, and then some will have some generic reviews, spotlight, and then kind of just a, I don't know, life update, month update, you know, we'll see. Starting off this month, I read The Key to You and Me. If you've read the summary of this book, you know exactly what you're getting into. Main characters, one is looking for some extra work to kind of start her own business, and she ends up getting in touch with a woman locally who runs a horse ranch, and her daughter, or her granddaughter, sorry, just happens to be staying with her for the summer, and she wants to teach her, she wants the entrepreneur girl to teach her granddaughter how to drive, and naturally, a romance blossoms. It's quick, it's simple, it is what it is. I don't think it was anything special and not ever going to stand up in my head, so it's like a 3.5 out of 5. Then I read Luck of the Titanic. I don't know why I was surprised that I cried like a damn baby in the end, but I did. And I mean, I don't know why I was like expecting something happy to happen. We all know how the Titanic goes down. I really enjoyed it. It's depressing though. So that was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Then I picked up Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller and ran through this in a couple hours actually. It has not beaten my love for Daughter of the Pirate King, but I liked this more than I liked, okay, so if I'm ranking her books, because I'm obsessed with Trisha Levenseller, Daughter of the Pirate King is number 1. And then we have The Shadow Between Worlds, and then we have the sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King, and then we would have this book, and then the sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King, and then Warrior of the Wild. So this is kind of middle upper of the pack. I really enjoyed it. I liked the main character, especially, and I think it was handled quite well on how she kind of leans on her sister in the positions that she's in to handle interacting with the public because of her anxiety. I love I'm a sucker for using like a combined group of lovable misfits to kind of take on evil person. I really like the magical power concept, and I'm so curious. So the main character in this, she can create weapons, and within those weapons she puts superpowers basically. So you can imagine she's pretty popular, and not everyone has magic in this world. It's actually quite rare. And in the end, through where we're going through this, we find out, you know, maybe we're going to potentially be interacting with one of the few other people that does have magic, and she is being chased by a warlord who wants to kind of use her to create a bunch of weapons to give out to her warlord army and like be a psycho dictator, and obviously doesn't want that to happen. So I am super excited to see where the romances are okay for me. I could take it or leave those, but it's the magic concept in here. The whole idea of being able to put sword into a weapon, and I think if I got to do that for myself, or if I got to ask for a weapon, I would want like a bow and arrow that always hits its target. I just feel like that'd be incredibly handy. So I really enjoyed this. It was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. I think if you like Trisha Levenseller, you will enjoy this, and I am very excited for the sequel. And I ended up giving 4.5 just because I didn't really like the romances, either hers or her sister's. I didn't hate them. I just, you know, they didn't really add anything to anything for me. So that was my only kind of drawback. I didn't fall in love with those aspects, but it's still a really good read. Very excited for the sequel. Then I picked up The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Kat Sebastian. I think I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Our main character kind of gets into a romantic entanglement. He's trying to live like a straight and narrow life and just like be a legitimate, he's had an injury. He used to like kind of rob people, but now he's trying to live like a straight and narrow life and like run like, I think it's coffee shop or bar or whatever it's called. And then a son of a well-to-do person, they kind of get in this entanglement, and essentially they want to try and set up his dad, who is not a great person, and they end up falling for each other and finding stuff about the well-to-do's dad, and kind of the main character who's former thief trying to live straight and narrow, you know, is kind of not physically healing, but like it's a big change, right? I mean, we've all seen those like movies and that whole trope of like trying to go straight and legal after being pushed kind of from life of crime out of something like like an injury, and it's not as easy to, like, I mean, we all know what the fuck it's like trying to live off of minimum wage. Then I read History is Yesterday. I was not expecting actually to enjoy this one as much as I did. So the main character starts off the book getting it's modern day time, getting an organ transplant, and then all of a sudden he has the ability to time travel, and the donor's parents get in contact with him because, you know, they are also time travelers, and a romantic entanglement starts between the donor's brother and him, and then someone in the past time, and then we start finding out how time traveling is causing pain, like him physically, and the kind of discussion on trying to like change the past comes up, which just always comes up in books about time travel, and I actually really liked it. I think how they managed to tie up both the relationships too was quite impressive. So I actually enjoyed it, and since I finished reading it, they released a new cover for it in the paperback. I think it's an alright depiction of what happens in there, but I really like the original cover of this. I just think it's really pretty and really nice. And yeah, so this is like a 4 out of 5 stars. I actually quite enjoyed it. Then I read Princess Floralinda. This gave me so much Shrek vibes. Oh, so much Shrek vibes. Instead of donkey, it's just like a Tinkerbell kind of character. Instead of like a donkey as the donkey character, it's like a fairy Tinkerbell. But our main character is, you know, kind of had it. Like, I don't want to wait around for these dudes. I'm locked in a tower. I'm not waiting for all these men who can't seem to get their shit together to get to me on the 40th floor. So she starts like trying to like go, and each level there's like a barrier, like something she has to fight, or like a puzzle solve or whatever, to get to the bottom. And it was just really good. This would have been something that like I probably would have read if it had been a full-length novel, but I think it was something that managed to like get its purpose, and have everything a story needs in a novella, and so succinctly, and it was enjoyable. I liked the characters, the entire concept. I could watch just like a full novel adaptation of someone just trying to escape in a locked tower. I just find that in each level being a new challenge or whatever, that would be so fascinating to me. And this book did a really good job of it. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was a 5 out of 5 stars for me, and Tamsin Muir just has yet to disappoint me. And actually I just saw that they are expanding the Gideon the Ninth series to be 4 books now. Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. What the fuck was I holding off on the series for? Oh my god. This book is bonkers good. Like, oh my god. One of the best books I've read this year. I ran through it. I have since run through book 2, and I plan on reading book 3 in the following month. It's so good. It's so cool. The concept, the audiobook is like the same way with Illuminate. It's like, it's not the different text formats the way the Illuminate did, but I feel like they're both they have a lot of similarities. This one is set in Earth, on Earth, whatever, but I feel like a lot of the conflict, a lot of the corruption, and the whole alien there's so many similarities, and then both having full cast audiobooks that are just so fantastic. If you like Illuminate, you really genuinely have to give this book a shot. So the main character, there's so many characters though, but our main female character ends up becoming integral part of this society. How do I put this? She ends up being kind of recruited into this secret organization. When she is young, she finds what ends up being part of like an alien robot. And when she grows up, she gets kind of tapped on the shoulder to go into this organization. And this secret group, who is operating with funding from the US government, shocker, has to start going around find out how to find, like, you can't just go randomly digging, right? How to find these. So there's like the science of using certain chemicals to find these places. And then they start going to try and find the pieces of this robot and put it together and figure out how the heck it works. And like, is this human technology, alien technology? Is this something, like, what exactly is this? And of course, these pieces aren't just designated to like a single country. I know the United States like to think they're the only country in the world, but the parts are scattered all over, so they have to go into Canada, into Russia, into all these countries where they end up finding pieces of the arm and very quickly like pick it up. And they're not like little dainty like books or anything, they're giant pieces of of alien robot, and they try to put it together and then find out how to make it work, because obviously alien bodies and genetics, whatever, wouldn't work the same as their technology and all this stuff. It is so good. It is so freaking good. There's like, you bounce back and forth between that main character and then also the kind of higher ups of this organization kind of controlling things, who are in talks with the US government, but like are not necessarily completely under control of the US government. And again, imagine the United States just going into Russia being like, sorry, we're just going to take this real quick, and then ducking out, and the Russian soldiers being like, what the fuck you doing here? And it's modern time. We all have cameras and shit, right? So it's so good. It's so good. And book 2 did not disappoint either. I don't understand how no one talks about this series whenever they talk about Illuminae. So it's stupid good. Solidest of 5 stars. Then I picked up Storm of Locusts, and despite the fact that I picked this book up after reading Sleeping Giants, which is one of the best books I've read all year and arguably ever, this still did not disappoint. Quite impressed with this one. I don't think I remembered enough of Trail of Lightning, like, as I wish I had for this, but I didn't remember a fair amount, and our main characters are kind of on the run, and we have our evil villain continuing on, and I still remember, it's been a couple weeks now, and I still remember the scene where they're like, they're making a run for it, and they're in this like I don't want to say barn, but it's like a house in like this community where a friend's trying to hide them while they figure out how they're getting out to get away from the villain, and the evil villain guy like turns into moths or locusts, sorry, and like start like attacking the house and like peeling boards away. And it was written so, like, it's not a long book, but it was written so well with details that I can literally like see like somehow like these locusts and moth and these animals that are being, once they kind of come together as this villain person once he gets into the area where he wants to be, right? Think like how the evil guy in The Mummy goes to sand, and then when he reforms once he's through the keyhole, that kind of thing. But I can vividly see it in my brain of how this happened, and then they get into the house through the roof, and then they start going onto this tunnel. It was just so cool. I have no idea when the 3rd book for this series is supposed to come out, because she has the sequel to Black Sun, which is supposed to come out next, and I think she has Star Wars books still coming out too. So I don't know when the 3rd book is going to come for this, but I will watch for it when it does. So this is another 5-star. I had like several really, really good books in a row this month. Then I am reading What the Hex by Alexis Dari, I think it is. This is an Audible original that was made available to anyone with an Audible. Is it the Audible Plus or just an Audible collect? I don't know. If you have an Audible subscription, you probably have access to it. So it's a short, quick novella. Our main character returns to her family's magical island, and she's kind of set up her life and runs like a fashion business in New York. She's just gone back because her sister's getting married to the brother of what was her rival growing up, and of course he's going to be there. And when they get there, she immediately notices that someone's like possessing the whole wedding party except for her and the guy that was her rival, and naturally they have to get rid of that possession, find out who's doing it, and try and not kill anyone because family, and then of course the romance may occur. I think this suffered from being a novella, actually. This would have been really cool, I think, expanded into a proper novel where the characters could have been developed a little bit more. The concept is really cool. It just didn't have enough time to be fleshed out, and the romance was just a little bit too conveniently. It took out, if it had been the space to be a full novel, you could have developed some banter and conflict between them, rather than them being like, oh, I remember I didn't like you. And even though they have to start working together, still not getting along right away would have like really, really benefited me being invested in the relationship, because it just seemed too simple, too easy to put together. So, not as good as I wanted it to be, but still like a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Well of Ascension. It was good. I still can't regurgitate this series. I really like specifically that the main character they become powerful when they like ingest certain metals, and there's a certain metal that everyone thinks this kingdom has. They've been bluffing that they have it, and they keep several kingdoms essentially threw their armies at them and are at their gate, being like, well, you told us you have this really, really in demand metal. We're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to use it, or we're gonna take over your kingdom and we're gonna use it. And, you know, realize they don't have it. So a lot of political maneuvering, though, because those armies were given the idea to do this by someone who's it was done very strategically. So there's a lot of political maneuvering in this. And I think this series would be so cool as a television show. I don't want to see it as a movie. As a television show, the series would be really, really cool to see it acted out with, especially when you're able to like essentially power up with these metals and that sort of stuff. That would be really, really cool. So really enjoyed it. I can understand the hype around this series. Another 5 out of 5 stars this month. Speaking of 5 out of 5 stars, I did a reread of Thorn by Intisar Kanani. Loved it. Then I read The Secret Bridesmaid, and I don't know if, like, the stars aligned in a perfect storm situation. I wasn't expecting to hate this book by any means. And it is, I said this before, like, romances I enjoy are generally, like, not just two straight white people. But this book really worked for me. Our main character got out before the book started, got out of a really long-term relationship, and very quickly after, he gets into a relationship with a girl and very quickly gets engaged. And she's like, we were together for like 8-10 years or whatever, and like you just dropped me like that. So she's not necessarily like still in love with him, but she's kind of like trying to figure out what her self-worth is and where she sees her path going. And as a job, she is a professional bridesmaid. So for people maybe that don't have a ton of friends, or friends are a lot of drama or whatever, or people have money, they will hire her, and she kind of keeps everything organized, kind of like a wedding planner almost. And she ends up getting tapped on the shoulder to do the wedding of a royal duchess in the UK. And, you know, that duchess doesn't turn out to be like upfront the nicest human being. She slowly gets to know her, and then there's a big kind of twist betrayal, and you know, someone lied and let information out when there's an NDA involved and all this stuff. And of course, she has a little bit of a fling developing with the bride's brother, who is the Duke. So it's a Duke. There's some royal bullshit titles, you know what I mean. And so, you know, she has that going, and all at the same time. And that's the other tricky thing, that boyfriend that dumped her after like 8 years together or whatever is still part of the same friend group. So it's kind of constant reminders coming up that way. And I don't know, just something about this I really enjoyed. It was so well written. The characters were well developed. I liked, they have these kind of moments where the bride kind of, when she's still got that stone wall up front, she has these like momentary slips, and you get to see kind of who she is, and the wall goes back up. And I really liked that. So you kind of got to see their friendship develop, and how there is an information leak. And I actually didn't, I didn't expect the information leak to be, I thought it was somewhere else, but then it kind of twisted of where it actually came out from. So it got me that way. So I ran through it in a couple hours. It's fantastic. I'm confused as to why I enjoyed it so much. It's been happening an awful lot in the last couple days. Actually, couple weeks, actually. Then I read The River of No Return. I think I probably enjoyed this only because it has some time travel elements to it. But other than that, I feel like it had an interesting concept. But it kind of, like at the time, like I finished it. I think it took me about 2 days or something like that to finish it. But now when I look back, I'm like, I think I was bored when I was reading it. You know what I mean? Like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Theft of Sunlight. Okay, Intisar Kanani. I knew it was like a companion to the first book. And I got like, I want to say like 95% the way through this book before I realized she can't wrap this plot up in enough with the pages that are left. And then I realized at the end of this that this is going to have a sequel. It's not another companion story, which I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be wrapped up. And just again, I get emotionally invested despite me not being super into YA fantasies. This series is so well written, and the characters are so good, and like the romance and the conflict and the world is just all so well developed. And I freaking love it. I freaking loved this book, and I was panicking at the end. I was like, if she this author can't, like, my brain was like, there's no way she could mess up this ending. She's too good of a writer. I can already tell that. How the hell is this? And I got to the end and I was like, book 3 is supposed to be a goddamn sequel to this companion. I don't know that I've ever read a series where there's a companion and then the companion gets a sequel and not the original story. I feel like that's just kind of a weird setup. But I'm so trash for it. I loved this. I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering the 3rd book whenever that comes out. There's no cover for it yet, but I'm very excited. Then I picked up the next 2 books in the Keeper of Velocity series. So I read Lodestar, and then I read Nightfall. And I'm not sure between the 2 which I liked more. We're just continuing on the same plot. There's the Black Swan, there's the other societies, and there's the existing societies. And they're all kind of butting heads an awful lot. And our main characters are kind of bouncing between the worlds and their alliances. I don't know. I think Nightfall was probably my favorite of the 2. I'm not totally sure why, but I shouldn't say that. It's like there's another kind of realm world and visiting Atlantis and all this stuff. I really liked it. I really, really like this series. It's so good. Then I read the Standin. It just popped up on my Audible as one of those like free to add to your catalogs. And I had never, like, it just wasn't on my radar until like when it came out, basically. And it's, our main character is this, I think it specifies she's half white, half Chinese. And she lives in Toronto, and she, right at the beginning, ends up losing her job. And it just so happens at the same time, she's noticed people kind of, when she's out and about in Toronto, people like taking pictures of her, and she's like, well, that's creepy. And ends up finding out when she gets kind of pulled over on the side of the road by a bougie ass car. She looks like the identical twin of a famous Chinese actress. And she's like, yo, I will pay you to play me when I need breaks or time off or whatever. And we end up, discussing a little bit about, mental health. And she's got, the actress has a best friend who everyone thinks that she's dating, but then a romance develops between the actor that everyone thinks the actress is dating and her doppelganger. And then there's also this big kind of reveal, which I did not see coming, of family lineage, and that they do have a connection that they aren't aware of. And it was really interesting. I thought it was also a novella going into it. I didn't realize it's like an 8-9 hour long audiobook, so it's a proper long book. I was not expecting actually to like this as much as I did. I was very pleasantly surprised by this. I just threw it in at random and I liked it. I also don't know that I read a ton of books that are set in Toronto, especially contemporary Toronto. So I enjoyed this a fair amount. I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5 stars in the end. Then I read May the Best Man Win. It's a good book. And I can acknowledge my privilege in this situation. It's really hard to read though. There's a lot of homophobia and a lot of transphobia in this, and just like toxic masculinity bullshit. I am cis and straight and white, and I never got really targeted at school for anything other than being butch, and people would call me a lesbian sometimes because I played sports, and that was like, oh, and fat and poor, but like never really got bullied for those things. So like I acknowledge that I never, I'm very lucky that I never had to do that. And I never saw that in my school. I had a large school though, so I'm sure it was happening. It's just like there's this main character, he doesn't even get brushed off or really like taught a lesson at the beginning or at the end of this movie with this like kind of finally like, yeah, he got his just desserts. He's just homophobic and transphobic and violent and a vile human being and has far too much screen time. Oh, I did not like that dude. And he just ruined every, and even like when the good things would happen to the main character, the main character has come out as female to male, and before the book started, broke up with his longtime boyfriend, and then came out, and then kind of a romance potentially develops between, him and the boyfriend, but then also trying to deal with everyone around him trying to support the transition, and also maybe being like, supporting because they know the person, or maybe not because they accept the person. And then there's just brat asshole in the school who was like, we talked when with your parents, and they said when you're coming out, we said we'd support you, but we know that guy who's harassing you and bullying you and assaulting you and like verbally berating you. We can't technically do anything to protect you from him. Sorry, my bad. fuck you. The school like that, I have no patience for that shit. And that's exactly why then you get parents or like kids that end up getting like violent because you don't protect them in any situation, fucking hate, oh god, I hate that. So like I feel like that contributed to why I ended up giving this book like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was just like not an enjoyable read. I don't know that it was necessarily supposed to be. And I think like the person that in there that is so vile, even when like something good would happen for the main character, he would be like right there in the next scene. And I was like, you're really making it difficult for me to be excited or happy for the main character because you're immediately taking it away and ripping the carpet out from under me. So I liked it, but giant warning for trigger warning for homophobia. Oh, and there's slut shaming in that too. That was too. It was just. Ugh. And lastly, I picked up In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. This is kind of pitched everywhere as like gay pirates. Not really so much the gay pirates. Our main character is believed. He's been kind of hidden. He's part of the royal family. He's like the youngest sibling. And the world has just kind of settled down because his grandpa essentially went like power hungry psycho, and once he got kind of removed from power as a dictator, they were like, okay, we need to get rid of everyone with powers, and he just happens to be born with power. So the family's kind of hidden him to make sure that he, doesn't manifest those in public. And he goes out kind of on a grand tour now, and they're just like, okay, you just make sure, like, we have to show you to the public. And he meets someone. And it's real cute romance that develops. I just wish this book had been longer. Same thing with, what I've spoken a few books before this month. I think it would have benefited from being longer to develop more conflict, more of the world, and more of the romance. That's it. I enjoyed it. It was a pretty good debut. I enjoyed it. It was like a 4 out of 5 stars. Spotlights. We'll go to least to most least favorite this month was probably The River of No Return. Because it's time travel, I expected to just absolutely adore it. And I didn't hate it by any means, but I think when I look back, it's the only book that, even like The Key to You and Me and all that stuff, it was the only book, probably because it was so long, that I like reflect back, I'm like, I was bored while reading this book. Even with it having time travel, I found myself bored. This just really doesn't happen to me all that often, so that was disappointing. Most surprising? I don't know. Probably, I don't know if there's a specific book this month that was most surprising. I think I'm just surprised at how many books I ended up giving 5 stars to. Like, I feel like there's a lot of months where I just sit at that 4-star mark. Just an awful lot. Because there's something missing or whatever. But this month I had a lot of 5-star reads. It was probably, when I look back, thinking back, it's probably a month where I have the most amount of 5-star reads for my TBR. And then my most favorite, though I loved Theft of Sunlight, and the Well of Ascension, like, just all of the 5-star books were so good. I am never going to stop shoving Sleeping Giants down the throat of everyone because I am upset that no one did that to me. I missed out on this book for like 4 years since it got published or some shit because it was not being pushed at me enough. Angry. It's fantastic. It's such a good series, and it's a Canadian author too, so like I'm just absolutely obsessed with this series. It's so freaking good. I can't wait. I can't remember the last time where I've like read book 1 and I've been like, okay, I immediately need to read the next books. They're going on my TBR. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll definitely read the sequel to this, and look and be like, oh, where can I slot it on my TBR? And these ones I was like, this is forced into this TBR for August. This is going to be forced into the TBR for September. I'm reading it as soon as I get my hands on it. And just like, it's got the excitement that it managed to get in me is kind of mind-blowing and impressive, and I just absolutely loved it. It's one of the best books I've read this year, and honestly, just period. So, Theft of Sunlight was great, but it was not Sleeping Giants. And just like general updates, I don't think I really had anything big happen in July. I potentially have a lot of changes to life coming in the next month or two, but a lot of that's in the air, and actually I shouldn't say that. It's quite sad. My supervisor has given us notice that she's retiring at the end of this year. This is my first job that I have like professionally that's not Subway or anything like that. And, you know, my work isn't like perfect by any means. And we've had a fair amount of like retirements over the last couple of years of people who were there like 30, 40 years, just because they're like, you know, older, they want to retire and whatever. And fair enough, I would love to be able to do that. But my supervisor is retiring, and she is like the most chill human being. When I hear people how their supervisors and their bosses act around them and talk and like micromanage them and like all this stuff, I've never gotten anything but like support, and her being like, unless you give me a reason not to trust you, you know, have at it. You know, you don't have to, you know, I'm not a babysitter. You're a grown ass adult. You have 2 university degrees. You do your thing. You'll tell me when you need help, and, you know, just stay safe if you're on the road and that sort of stuff. Like, it's so nice when you compare that to how you're always at every fast food place treated. And I've just gotten a lot of opportunities under her to like learn and grow, and she says yes an awful lot of times, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to try this. She's like, yeah, sure, give it a shot. You know, we'll learn from it, even if it doesn't work out. So, and just slowly kind of handing over more responsibility to me and my coworker, because we're both about the same age, have been in the workforce about the same time. So it just gives us a lot of learning opportunities, and it's a genuine position where you can come in straight out of school and use it as a learning opportunity and get told yes an awful lot of times to get experience in things. So it's scary, and I'm sad because she's just genuinely a really nice person. I will link all these books in the description box down below. I will also link all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back, unless you have a Super Sketch account. And yeah, stay safe, get vaccinated if you can, watch out for that Delta variant, and I don't know, I'll talk to you later.